Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden, and today we're going to talk about my favorite topic, identity, in relation to doing your best. So why is this the topic of the day? Because I had a few conversations yesterday and one earlier today about doing your best. Like, I'm trying, I'm doing my best here, leave me alone, don't judge me. And we hear this a lot, that everybody's just doing their best. And if you took the time to look at the situation someone is in, you'd see that they're probably doing their best, whatever that means. So today, I want to investigate this idea of doing your best and how that relates to identity, how it relates to pride, and how to step outside the trap of I'm doing my best. Because it is a trap, and we'll get to that in a moment. So to begin, let's talk about the nature of identity or personal narrative, the sense of who you are in this long-running story of your life and who you are in relation to your life, who you are in relation to other people, who you are in relation to your goals, who you are in relation to your past. This is your identity. It's a simulation that we run to keep track of how we're doing. And as social creatures, this is important because we live in a very competitive social world, especially as time goes on. So rather than technology bringing us closer together and making us less competitive, it's doing the opposite. So identity narratives are becoming more and more influential in our daily lives. And this is a problem because it traps us in those identity narratives which feel like the real world. It feels like my real life. I literally am doing my best within this narrative. And this is really obvious if you look at somebody else's life. They're struggling, and you can see why they're struggling, and you can see lots of possibility around them. But when you have a conversation with this person, they're going to justify and explain why the situation they're in is real, it's inescapable, and that they're doing their best to manage it. But outside of their personal narrative, you can see, well, that's just a story. If you were to step outside of that story, you'd see other possibilities. You'd see other avenues that you could take that could lead you to less stress and more productivity or just more enjoyment. But as long as you remain inside that narrative, as long as you're trying to maintain your sense of self and identity in a consistent, coherent way that allows you to feel like you're somehow in charge of things, in charge of your life, really, as long as you stay there, you're going to be trapped. You're going to keep explaining it and justifying it. But everybody around you can see that it's a ruse, but you can't. And we can turn that lens around and look at the person that just judged you, and they're going to do the exact same thing because they're also trapped in an identity narrative, which they can't see. But they can see yours. They just can't see their own. This is why I spend so much time talking about this concept of narrative identity, because it is the root of the vast majority of your problems and almost all of your suffering. So that's a diagnosis of the problem, but what do you do about it? Well, fortunately, I just caught something happening in the creation of this very video that you're watching that I think is a perfect way into this conversation or potential solution. So I don't have a script. My videos are off the cuff. I am just talking. And when I do so, I'll often get to a point where I've said something that I think is of value, and I know I want to get to this place over here, but I don't know how to get there yet. So I will make lots of attempts to bridge that gap. You see the edited version where I take out all of the attempts that didn't bridge from A to B. And it looks like a smooth transition. But that's not what actually happened in the making of the video. So why this is relevant to this conversation is that when we're trapped in the narrative, we rarely do things that are in our best interest. And we do things that we must do, we are obligated to do, because the narrative has trapped us into particular channels of movement and existence and beingness, and we don't know how to get out because we have to keep the narrative going. I have a reputation. I have a family. I have a job. I have all these things that are attached to who I am that I can't simply walk away from. That's what the narrative tells you. But when you step out of the narrative and into the present moment, I'm still Tim. I'm still in this room. I still pay rent for it. I still work as a coach. I'm still an athlete. There's still so many things that apply to me, but I don't need to have this historical glue that holds it all together. It can simply be true in this moment. And I don't need it to move in any particular direction. And therefore, the pressure's off. There's just this moment, this now. What is at hand? And if I'm focused on what is at hand, and if I'm in a state where I'm not stressed and depleting myself, but I'm allowing myself to fill up so that I'm empowered, well then, whatever is in front of me, I'm going to engage in it more effectively, more creatively, and not in a rush. I'm going to take my time. And when you do this, you're then much more likely to do what's in your best interest. If we look at the Latin roots of the word interest, we can see that it means inter-being, inter-esse. Esse means being. So how does that relate to this conversation? Well, that gap is what exists, what is between you and where you want to be. So how do I get from A to B? There's that space in between. So what is in my best interest? Well, it's the thing now that's going to bridge that gap to the place that I want to arrive at. That's what's in your best interest, that bridge. So when I make a video, I have lots of failed bridges. Sometimes they reach 80% of the way across the chasm, but then collapse before I get to the other side. So they were not in my best interest. So what I want to do is run lots of tests, lots of experiments like I do in a video until I find a bridge that makes it to the other side and that's stable. I can actually walk across it without danger. So we don't immediately know what's in our best interest, what's going to bridge that gap. But if we allow ourselves to experiment, which requires that you're not stressed, it requires that you're taking your time, and it requires that you're taking in the present moment, what you're capable of outside of your story, because your story's going to have lots of judgments in it. I can't do this. I'm no good at that. I never succeed at this. Nobody's going to help me. If you step out of that, well, can I put my fingers on the keyboard? Can I hit keys? Can I type words? Yes. Why couldn't I? But in the story, I could never write that email. I could never write a book. But if it's fingers on keys, typing letters, looking at a screen and seeing how the screen is responding to my physical actions, look at that, I'm writing. But the narrative says you can't. So if I take in the present moment, which includes me and the world around me that I have created or put myself into, then I'm much more likely to slowly, sensually, creatively, curiously engage with that environment, run some experiments, move it forward until I can find the thing that bridges the gap, the thing that's in my best interest, because it's in between me and my best. But the narrative will tell you I'm already doing my best. And what is my best? It's me spread so thin, stretched so tight, high-strung, that I cannot function, that I do not have the room to be curious, that I do not have the room to be attentive or compassionate or gentle or kind or loving. I'm doing my best here. Don't push me. Is that your best? Or is that some old narrative trap that you fell into decades ago and you've simply been working really hard to try to keep it going? So what is it that's between you right now, trapped in your narrative, and your best? What is in your best interest in that gap? And it doesn't mean perfect. We're simply experimenting. We're exploring. We're taking our time. We're soaking in the world around us. We're soaking in our own present state of embodied beingness. And we're saying, okay, let me try some stuff. Let me run some experiments and see which one of them gets me to that place where I'm no longer trapped in a narrative. Because once you do step outside of that narrative, you no longer have one linear path that you must move through, one linear perceptual object that you're constantly attending to, you and your life. Outside of that, you see greater possibility. You see, wow, my identity had constrained attention. My identity had constrained interests, meaning that what was between me and tomorrow was pretty much always the same thing. It didn't change. It didn't evolve. But outside of the narrative, we can start widening that perspective. We can take things in that are not habitually me. We can start attending to things that have nothing to do with who I know myself to be. And we can start associating things and discovering and creating new possibilities, new paths forward, and new potential opportunities to enjoy life. So people say, I need to change, but they don't change the story that they're in. In order to change, you have to step outside of the script, and you have to allow yourself to experiment, to stumble, to fail again and again. Then suddenly you have options. Oh, well, what if I changed this? Yeah, look at that. That bridges the gap. That's in my best interest. But clinging to that narrative, that tightly focused lens of attention, trying to manage my life, has very little possibility. And the only thing that it's going to bridge the gap between is you miserable now and you miserable at some point in the future. The way out is out of you, to forget yourself and to discover who you could become if you broke the habit of being you. So I hope there's some value in there for you. And please let me know in the comments below what this triggers in you. Are you doing your best? Trying to hold on, trying to survive? Or will you allow yourself to step outside of yourself and discover who you are when you're not managing that story? Okay, I will see you soon.